such a day. Pechale, I would not do. Tachana, the Urum Buddhigan, so the Hingrova. Pulo Chunjun to Sola Pebeki, Laviola Sova, the Himabuch and Nangadua. Hey, I would. Oh, yeah, Tene, Teva. Cannot say Inji Matomagoki Kasi. How many of you understand only English? Ni. Ale ni. Any chance Tibetan Inji. Those of you who understand only English, you can ask questions. Huh? You understand Tibetan also? Little bit? Very good. Any? Oh, wonderful. Okay, yeah.
Geshe Lhakdor, thank you so much for coming to New York. And I hope you come back as often as you can. I have a very quick question.
You speak on the...
Oh, yeah. So according to Buddhism, consciousness is made of 4 parts. Mind consciousness, sense consciousness, store consciousness, and manas. But where does consciousness come from? That's my question.
Consciousness come from... Actually, this is a problem with the English terms. Not so much about Tibetan. So we loosely translate number Shiva as consciousness, same as mind, right? And Yi may be manas. It's only difference in terms. But your main question is, what is the source of consciousness? This is important. Or what is the source of mind? This is important. Because according to science, when many parts in the brain and other things, many things become more and more complex, then through this complex reality, something emerges that has the capacity to cognize object. So the mind, the so-called mind, comes from there. But of course, it's a function of the brain, not a separate mind. But according to Buddhism, the substantial cause of a mind must be preceding mind. There are cooperative conditions, like the body and other things can contribute, but the substantial cause of mind must be a preceding mind. This is how we prove the existence of past life. Now if you keep on tracing, when was the origin, when was the mind started, or when was the human being started, or even when was the universe started, then according to Buddhism we say you cannot pinpoint to one single moment saying this is the time when everything started. It's just beginningless. That's so? Any? Oh yeah.
High school na middle school Ani anzo New nala ya talapda public school na training public school na ke dam de pu yore. Anzo ke phe pu de la ya ke ka bada meta ba samje je yore.
Ore.
Ke samje di anje miri simbe pu da meta be ke khade ten ko mi ta la de ta te na re ke le te jo che phaman ti jo che ati anzo thumu mai be anzo phama do yo di ani che la inke to ne ani miri simba da meta ba anzo samje la de na te tu ya ji
Yeah, thank you for asking this question, but he was primarily asking, the uniqueness of Tibetan culture, especially morality, that is there with the Tibetan community, Tibetan youths, which may not be there in the case of many other youths. So he is asking me to explain this. So thank you for asking this question, because this question helps me talk about today's topic, which is development. Now, when we talk about development, the term development is normally related to economical development. So, development means how desirable change in society is made. Desirable change in society is made. There are certain desirable things that you want to achieve, and how you bring about changes so that you are able to actualize that desirable object. So moving towards that is called development. So there are a lot of things. Now there are so many theories about that. Some people say modernization is necessary. Some people say, structure needs to be changed. Somebody say we must attend the basic needs. Then we have the new classical theory where it says that the government should not intervene in obtaining those development and things like that. It's a very complex subject. But to make a long story short, we have this basic nature to become better and better, whatever it is. So when we talk about development, we are primarily talking about the external material, economical development, of course, and more importantly, development of your health, your physical health related to your body. And then more importantly, development of the mind. This is most crucial, development of the mind. For proper health and development of the body, you do all kind of yoga, little bit meditation, little bit of exercise, jogging and jumping, whatever, swimming, and so many things you do. But for the mind, no amount of physical exercise will contribute towards that mental development. Mental development must be done through employing the mind itself, using the mind itself. Now the important thing is, what is this thing called mind? The best way to understand mind is it is a subtle energy. For example, if you look at that electric wire there, you see the electric wire. You don't see the current flowing inside that electric wire. That does not mean there is no current. If you insist that there is no current, just touch a live wire. Touch a live wire, you will get the shock, and then you know there is the electric current. So the point that I'm making is, it is not necessary that everything that is existent is visible to the naked eye. Like in science also we talk about energy. Like that. Now even more important than that is for you to understand is, as I've always been saying, that we all want happiness. Everybody. Even if we ask all of you to put your signature, I know you will put your signature. You all want happiness? Yes, sir. Whatever, you will put your signature. Then I ask you a second question. Okay, you want happiness. You want happiness, but how long you want happiness? For how many days you want happiness? I've asked this question many times. Then normally people smile and laugh. And then I ask them, why you are smiling, why you are laughing? Then they say, Geshe, when it comes to happiness, it's not a question of few days, it is as long as possible. Some people even go to the extent of saying that I want happiness in this life. There is not enough, I want happiness for many lives to come. Didua, are you with me? Yes. You all want not only happiness, but long-lasting happiness. In life, we should always remember this. And in fact, if you are a good illustrator, with an illustration, nice art or something, then you should write, I want long-lasting happiness, as a reminder. Because in our day-to-day life, we forget these things. In our day-to-day life, we live as if we don't want that long-lasting happiness. Ephemeral happiness is enough for me. That's the tendency that we live in this world. Right? So once you have this reminder, I want long-lasting happiness, then naturally this question will lead to the next question. Okay, if you want that long-lasting happiness, what do you think is the main source of that long-lasting happiness? Again, I have asked this question to many places all over the world. And when I ask this question, people say, what do you think is the main source of your long-lasting happiness? When I ask people, the source of long-lasting happiness money? People say no. Is the source of long-lasting happiness your friends, relatives? Even there people say no. Re mare? Re. Rwa? Cheda pea with the two races. Race the peabulas. Coprogi pea with you. Chesta curse already. The source of long lasting happiness is here, see the curse. It's your mind, Sigore. It's your mind. The source of long lasting happiness is your mind. What kind of mind? Not the stupid mind, definitely. Not the arrogant mind, not the angry mind, not the emotional mind, not the mind with attachment. So what kind of mind? That's the key question. That's the key question. So right now problem is, even though we say the long, lasting, the source, the main source of long lasting happiness is your mind, but if you look at your mind right now, unfortunately, the mind that you have right now is predominantly controlled by negative emotions. I'm not saying completely. Many good things are there, but I'm saying predominantly. Many of you have attended my previous talks also, so it's almost like repeating, but there are so many new people, so I want to repeat the same thing. I am not here to always give, I'm not a news person. I will keep on saying the same thing when it is important. So, the main source of the long-lasting happiness is your mind. But the mind, as I said, the mind right now is unfortunately predominantly negative, stupid, short-sighted, narrow-minded. That's why we are getting all these problems and difficulties, individually and also globally. So now this is the point. This is the crucial point. Now when we talk about Dharma practice, we are basically saying, I want to elect a new leader. It's exactly like election. When you are not satisfied with your present president, prime minister, you say, he's wrong, he's not good. I'm going to get a new president, prime minister. You will vote for a person who, new president, prime minister, who you think, not necessarily always true, but at least who you think will do a better job. Right? Do a better job. So therefore, when we talk about Buddhist practice, it is nothing but dethroning the negative emotions and enthroning the positive emotions, empowering the positive emotions. So right now, our present state is, generally speaking, maybe one or two bodhisattvas are there, I don't know, but generally speaking, right now, the negative emotion party had won and seized the headquarters of our mind. So their president, prime minister is ignorance and self-cherishing attitude. President and prime minister is ignorance and self-cherishing attitude. They got landslide majority. They won the election. So they have captured the headquarters of our mind and nobody is challenging them. So they are just sipping nice cup of tea and relaxing. Kangpachang, lakpachang, reluche, rangchin da dangzini, pumbuchane, kunyi ka dang do diyor ngado. Kunzu ka dang diyor. We are constantly ordered by the self-cherishing attitude and ignorance by saying, if somebody is saying something, then immediately the self-cherishing attitude and ignorance will say, get angry, fight with them. Zing level, Juchala des Toviera Jukovina, the Tovache, so Ravache, Marana Chungre, they love Giorda. So that did not bring any joy, any long lasting happiness. So now we are kind of revolting and we are saying, now enough is enough. You stupid president, prime minister, you stupid ignorance and self-cherishing attitude, enough is enough. Now we are going to select a new leader. We are going to join the new positive party whose president, prime minister is wisdom, understanding, emptiness and bodhicitta. I'm talking about the heart of the Buddhist practice. In Buddhist practice, the most important practice is cultivation of bodhicitta and wisdom, understanding, emptiness. If you develop this wisdom, understanding, emptiness, that will remove ignorance. that will uproot ignorance. If you cultivate bodhicitta, that will remove self-cherishing attitude. Hakoswa, antu phege tola shena, rang chin na denzi ni yorwa, tinga tu danguni dire, tinga tu pombuchin de yor tanda. Ta kunyi matpab gudu se gore. Kunyi ke kapde de kanju munju yung marwa, jombu ni ku yorwa. Chata kunyi ke kapde de dangzi mari ku kapde de tuni to hirap. Rang chin ke kapde de chanju sim. Tadi nangcho ki nyingbo ri dangi nyingbo di shirang si lakbo tegi orde. Nangcho ki nyingbo kare, tuni toko shirab dang, changchu sem. The essence of Buddhism is the development of wisdom, understanding, shunyata, which means the way things are, and bodhicitta, which aspires to become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. These days, whenever His Holiness the Dalai Lama gives a teaching, he concludes emphasizing the need to develop these two minds. So that is the big talk and also the main subject matter of the Buddhist teaching. But if I come down a little bit to address this question properly, in order for any person to be happy, and successful, academic achievement alone is far from enough. Why we need good heart? I'm talking about the need to have ethical discipline and good heart. Mental intelligence alone is not enough. I give you an example. For example, somebody may be extremely intelligent but no feeling of universal responsibility, no feeling of compassion for others. So because that mind is intelligent, he will invent atom bomb. I'm not saying that those who invented atom bomb, they have the full responsibility. The government must have asked them to do so, but he also plays a part. Your mind is very intelligent, but you don't have the heart. Any milinovachi, Sungjina, Kepsan Susi Kepsan and Tagara Kenda Karjinachi. Randon Duna Tagara Kenda Karjinachi. Cheza Namchu Yeva Chiku, intelligence, education, ordinary education is far from enough. This is not just me saying. If you read any of the modern articles, is the modern, just type this and find out, is the modern system of education enough? Just type this, you will get all the answers. Not enough. This is not just from Buddhist parlance. So what is missing is good heart. Sem Sangho, good heart. Semba Chibo, calmness of mind. If you have the calmness of mind, you can study very easily without getting stressed out, without developing fear. If you don't have this calmness of mind and relaxed state of mind and emotional stability, you will always be like running and then angry and stressed out. Then it's like playing football. It's like playing a musical instrument, I told this story earlier also when I was entering America, and at the immigration office, when I showed my passport, the man there, he said, "What is your purpose of visit?" I said, "I'm attending conferences and giving talks." He said, do you teach meditation and mindfulness?" I said, "Yes, I do." Then he said, "I have been trying to meditate and practice mindfulness. Very difficult. Can you help me?" Of course, I cannot just give a long talk there because people are waiting there, long line people are waiting there. So I said one word. I said, "You should like what you're doing. You should like what you're doing. Whether it's mindfulness, whether it's meditation, whether it's your study, whether it's your sport, whatever you do, if you like it, it will be very easy. It will be fun. If you don't like it, if you just push yourself or somebody pushes you, it will not be very easy. So the first step for any success is, you check carefully whether you should do it or not. And if you think there's something you should do, then you need to like it. Right? And of course, when through this analysis, if you find that this is not useful, this is not what I'm doing, then better not to start it. Roa, ako sama. Oh, so therefore, in your study, combination of head and heart is like the two wings of the bird. The bird with just one wing cannot fly. So if you only had lot of knowledge, good in mathematics and so forth, but no kindness, no calmness of mind, no wish to help others, only oneself, just thinking only oneself, I must be the top, This is then it's not going to be useful for you. Right? So therefore I always call it combination of head and heart. And especially when we talk about the unique thing about Tibetan culture and Tibetan Buddhism is, now listen to this very carefully. This is very important. Tibetans for many centuries, many generations, put their heart, mind and soul, everything to develop this culture. What we have today is product of many generations, many centuries of Tibetan scholars and thinkers and even ordinary people. We put our soul, mind, everything, wealth, everything to protect, to develop this culture. And now we have a culture which we can proudly show to the rest of the world. Not a kind of display through arrogance, but to help the rest of the world. Because today, unfortunately, on the one hand, there is so much, running towards material development. And through this endless running, people are stressed out. How many people are there suffering from loneliness? How many people are there from stress? How many people are there who are suffering from low self-esteem? So many unnecessary diseases are there. All these diseases can be erased by changing your mental attitude, by developing love, by developing compassion, and not to get obsessed with your personal problems alone. For example, take the example of the Tibetan refugees, Comparing to many, developed countries, of course we are refugees, so we have minimal facilities, but still Tibetans everywhere like flourishing. They're enjoying. They're basically very successful. Tibetans are said to be one of the most successful refugees in the whole world. It is because of good leader and it is because of good culture. So you should value this. I'm not saying you should value this or preserve this because it belongs to the Tibetans, because not everything that belongs to the Tibetans is necessarily good. We may also have cultural clippings which may today be redundant, but I'm talking about the main culture, the culture of love, the culture of compassion, the culture of non-violence. These, so long as human beings are there, we will need it. Just like medicine. If you really don't have this good heart, then better not to have any education. Through education you may be able to look after yourself and get some food, some clothing, so what? The animals that don't have any education, they also somehow surviving, you see. Marve? So what is the difference between animals and human beings? Human beings have this big head. Relative to the size of the body, human beings have the biggest head. And this biggest head is for thinking, for showing compassion. Rwa, go chimbo de ki dogre kharche Rwa, go chimbo de ki ne pede buche sane. Dawani sajil, dawani marda, lo ni sajil, go chao thumuda, mibu. Human, human offsprings, children, after the birth, almost for 2 years, they are not even able to lift their head. Simje shenda pu do so chutu chingi kam khaji na chor lang ru do. Ngatu go chembo jiki lo ni sa lang ma du kale je. Ani lang sa du nyok da chi den. Di tak chi che di. I've been saying this. So make sure that you are not an animal. You are unique. You have this unique human brain, intelligence, and also the capacity to develop good heart. And the other day I also mentioned that if you look at your physical body, this long arm is for hugging, not for hitting. This nice fingers also for shaking hand. And the nice teeth also for smiling. Not many animals have that. So therefore, be a good human being. That's the most important. Happy. Be a happy, relaxed, good human being. And with that, you can do anything. Take the example of His Holiness Dalai Lama. He is also a refugee. How many millions of people are receiving inspiration from him? How many people are getting benefit from him? Similar, one person. So we are his followers. We can also, to our own level, benefit many people if you have these inner good qualities. So these inner values are very, very important for all kinds of development, which is my topic today, development. Most important source of development is your thought, your thinking. If you look at the development of Tibet, how are we going to develop Tibet? Of course, there are many aspects, economical development, political development, structural development, so many types of developments are there. But the offspring of all this development is human mind. And as I already mentioned, there are two types of power, soft power and hard power. Out of this, if you really think about the long-term benefit, then the most important thing is the soft power, not the hard power. Hard power is power of gun, power of ballistic missiles, power of atom bomb. These are actually outdated now. Really, I'm a small man to make such a big statement, but I do think that these are outdated. These are like animals way. And worse than animals, because we have this intelligence, we are able to invent all these destructive weapons. Right? So therefore, our emphasis should be on soft power. Soft power means power of culture. This one? Okay, any other questions?
토치나 지실라 상주 콜리아 kalubyo shishna so ta nga de dring shonji mangbo shi special da college da high school din de tuni chanja re ta tanda ngaw ji de la kendi shu na shi daw re si cha do ji do ini ya ta nga ju de ti den jo bu mangbo shu ji da pa me ngone thona che ji suliya din de tuition din de ta ya re thona mangbo shu shi nang du lob jong pe ya go yo re ta khoju 당한주 단다데 아메리카나 리네다 미도 당분나시 차대요레 딜레선자 이니 보고 가시에 있는 당한주 아메리카 지역에 우야 아메리카 레비도아 딜레선자 이니 코난주 다 마웅바 보고든주 이니 셰여 야고 장바다 냠도 다 배외 리슈를 도나제는다 마웅바 배외 셰지르지 콘주스날 데야 딘데 톨이야 이니 근데 지고 있네. 딱보 망고치 지단 부익장 판매 벽에라 근데 망고치 고였디네. 보 가시 판매 도나 매워 주주야. 직 배배 주도 날이야. 용야에 가고 싶지도. 먼저 벽에 마신 인자 아니 지도 날 배배 제고 된다 되게 돌람나. 도야 가고 싶지기도 와. 근데 손자다 콘주 심날 마음방아 배가 이 삼바지기. 에노 콘주 심 시대 날이야. 근데 돼야지기. 돌려야 아니 기실하게.
Yeah, actually, with regard to youngsters, youths, whether you call yourself American or Tibetan, that's not a big deal. What is important is to understand the fact that you are born from Tibetan parents. I remember very well once I was with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and His Holiness stopped for a night in Chandigarh. The next morning, before his departure, there were few hundreds of university-going Tibetan youths are waiting there. So His Holiness briefly addressed them by saying, "Papa isame samlo de je marda. Churan khasi papa men dongda cheva ina. Chedila shada kha rupa kursara das." That was very powerful. He said, the most important thing is don't forget that you are a Tibetan. Because even if you say and pretend that you are not Tibetan, in this life you can't change this body. It's Tibetan blood, Tibetan bone, Tibetan sharp flesh. What? Number one, that's what I wanted to say. The second, with regard to studying Tibetan culture, Tibetan language, Tibetan Buddhism, you will be amazed to see, and many of you must have visited Dharamsala. You can even come to my institute, Library of Tibetan Works and Archives, see there. The students attending the Buddhist class in Tibetan languages are from all over the world. There are even those who are above 60 and just studying from the scratch, ka, nga, with the hope that gradually they'll be able to read and study the most important, and sacred Buddhist texts and teachings. They are not Tibetan. So we, of course, are Tibetan. It's our culture. Therefore, we must study. We must study Tibetan culture and Tibetan language. And the parents play a very important role. I spoke about this earlier. It is the duty of the parents, not simply saying study Tibetan, study the language, culture, not just talking like that. They themselves should speak in Tibetan to the youths. Bring the cup. Number one. Number two, I also said this earlier. These kids, they spend 5 days studying in their own college, university, and schools. Then on the weekend, 2 days, supposed to be their holiday, whatever. Did you the Kunzu girl, Puike Jang, Pui Jang, love the Kunzula, Dodi Macha was gore. Some of them, Yimanga Page Jang, Kalaka Baju. The Nimani de la Yang was the station, a couple of that's like what the Buchu and the Libe Chomare. The Tapkegan Laborata. When the way you do Dana de la Yunde, the head of and the Junior Lao, and the Samachambo, Buchu, Samanyam, the Zomi, the Uncle to Dodi Sigmadoa, Gawachin Yugodoa. They are Tigor, Gawachis, and you need to like it. Hawaii did it. Tigor Matoga, Tilly, but the Dutch Jango, I should Papa Maime singing Motungoma Ladan Jorwa. Till of Geomarda. Till of Geomar, they should have never chever the Otonsi. What they need the Taki chasing, pool, shut the shoulder, Paveki Chala, the Suina, the hijab there, and how about the Kundu kitchen till the hijab, who got it that day. Yeah, the shit, they tell to the young customs, my shit. Not the Bobby looks at the Jura. Oh, it is in the Shingamara, or the Turkish education will do something.